All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another version of the Afternoon View. Got to get on a plane in a couple hours, so I'm doing this one quick. But there's a story yesterday that got Kyle Rittenhouse trending. And it wasn't about Kyle Rittenhouse. It was about a whole nother case. And I want to talk a little bit about that real quick, and then that's it. We're going to do one quick little video. So, play the intro. All right. So, as I said, yesterday, Kyle Rittenhouse was trending on Twitter. And every time Kyle Rittenhouse trends on Twitter, it usually has to do with something that happened in another state, in another place, has nothing to do with Kyle Rittenhouse. And yesterday was a classic example. Now, if you haven't heard of this case of someone named Piper Lewis in Iowa, it's a very, very awful case. And in the description down below, I have a way if you want to support Ms. Lewis, which I think she deserves support from, anybody who's willing to do it. Now, granted, the GoFundMe that one of her former teachers set up for her has gone far beyond what they had asked for. So, but still, I don't think it matters. I think it's okay. Let me tell you the story of Piper Lewis, though, because this story came out yesterday, and it seems a little messed up, but people comparing it to Kyle Rittenhouse have no idea what they're talking about. Okay, so in Iowa, let me fix something real quick before I do that. 1, 2, 3, and there we go. All right, here we go. So, Iowa teenager who killed her accused rapist is sentenced and ordered to pay $150,000. Now that headline alone lets you know that this story is a mess. It doesn't make sense, okay? Because the way they wrote the headline, and the headline is accurate, okay? It's not something that they, this is an AP story. It's just facts, okay? Now, here's the story. A teenage human trafficking victim who was initially was charged with first-degree murder after she stabbed her accused rapist to death and was sentenced Tuesday in an Iowa court to 5 years of closely supervised probation and ordered to pay $150,000 in restitution to the man's family. Now, that's crazy, right? Sounds crazy. Now, let me just read the rest of this, though. Polk County District Judge David M. Porter on Tuesday deferred those prison sentences, meaning that if Lewis violates any portion of her probation, she could be sent to prison to serve the 20-year term. Which, wait till you hear this. After being required to pay the estate of a rapist, this court is presented with no other option, Porter said, noting restitution is mandatory under Iowa law that has been upheld in the Iowa Supreme Court. Lewis was 15 when she stabbed Brooks more than 30 times in a Des Moines apartment. Officials have said that Lewis was a runaway who was seeking to escape an abusive life with her adopted mother and was sleeping in the hallway of a Des Moines apartment building when a 28-year-old man took her in before forcibly trafficking her to other men for sex. Lewis said one of those men was Brooks and that he had raped her multiple times in the weeks before his death. She recounted being forced at knife point by the 28-year-old man to go with Brooks to his apartment for sex. She told officials that after Brooks had raped her again, she grabbed a knife from a bedside table and stabbed Brooks in a fit of rage. Police and prosecutors have not disputed that Lewis was sexually assaulted and trafficked, but prosecutors have argued that Brooks was asleep at the time he was stabbed and not an immediate danger to Lewis. Now that's important. Does it make you not feel sympathy for Lewis? Does it change your feeling for Lewis? No, it does not. But that part's important. Lewis earned her GED while being held in a juvenile detention, acknowledged in a statement prior to her sentencing that she struggled with the structure of her detention, including why I was treated like fragile glass or wasn't allowed to communicate with her friends and family. My spirit has been burned, but still glows through the flames, she read from a statement she had prepared. Hear me roar, see me glow, watch me grow. I am a survivor. The Associated Press does not typically name victims of sexual assault, but Lewis agreed to have her name used previously in stories about her case. Prosecutors took issue with Lewis calling herself a victim in the case and said she failed to take responsibility for stabbing Brooks and leaving his kids without a father. Well, it's FTG Thursday. I would say FTG to that guy, right? But we got to think legally here. I want to talk to some lawyers about this anyway. But anyway, so here we go. The judge peppered Lewis with repeated questions to explain what poor choices she made that led up to Brooks' stabbing and expressed concern that she sometimes did not want to follow rules set for her in juvenile lockup. The next 5 years of your life will be full of rules you disagree with, I'm sure of it, Porter said. He later added, this is the second chance that you asked for. You don't get a third. Carl Schilling with the Iowa Organization for Victim Assistance said the bill to create a safe harbor law for trafficking victims passed the Iowa House earlier this year, but stalled in the Senate under concerns from law enforcement groups that it was too broad. There was a working group. So they're trying to make a safe harbor law for people who are sex traffic victims or child trafficking victims, things like that. It did not pass. Iowa does have an affirmative defense law that gives some leeway to victims of a crime if the victim committed the violation under compulsion by another threat of serious injury, provided that the defendant reasonably believed that such injury was imminent. That's important too. Prosecutors argued Tuesday that Lewis waived the affirmative defense when she pleaded guilty to manslaughter and willful injury. Now, let's go back here a little bit, because a lot of people are trying to compare this to Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse killed two people and shot another and blah, 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 and he got off scot-free. He gets to go one way, okay? There's no comparison. This is nothing like that. Number one, in this case, I remember reading about this. It didn't get publicity that probably should have, but one of the reasons the prosecutors charged her with first-degree murder is because in her situation, she killed the man while he was sleeping, and she at some point she admitted that, right? But now, if I was in a jury, I'd have said, so what? I'd have been like, well, you get a freebie here because that guy was a piece of shit. But that's not where we're at. But from the legal standpoint, that's why the prosecutors originally charged her with first-degree murder, because she, instead of taking the opportunity to leave, she stabbed the man to death in his sleep. Okay? Now, Avocado Stabby, you're absolutely right. She had bad legal counsel, in my opinion. Now, then also, because her counsel got her to plea, because this is going to be a tough case. You're taking your chances with juries, right? Because even if she was in this terrible, terrible situation, is a jury going to feel empathy, sympathy, whatever for the defendant? Or is the jury going to go strictly by the law? Because the opportunity to flee versus the opportunity of pick up a knife and stabbing a girl or stabbing someone to death in their sleep, right? So it's a tough case, but man, you would think there'd be some good lawyer out there that could get a jury on this girl's side. This is a victim. And obviously she is a victim of terrible circumstances. Now, here's where the Kyle Rittenhouse comparisons come. And these are two very different cases. For example, here is, I'm going to show you some of the people out here talking about. There's a whole tons of people talking about. Real quick, thank you, Maddie, for dropping a 5 in the tip jar, who says the charges suck. Having her pay restitution sucked. She is a victim. This reminds me of the burning bed thing back in the day with the battered woman. She needed better counsel. You are absolutely correct. She needed better counsel. Oh, by the way, this whole restitution thing, that is an Iowa law that in cases like this, a victim of murder, manslaughter, whatever, the defendant or the guilty charge, which in this case she pled guilty, as a plea deal down to this. Look, she's going to be free as long as she keeps her nose clean, doesn't get any trouble in 5 years. That's how long her probation is, and then she won't have to go to jail, which is great. But the restitution part, apparently, according to this judge, is set in stone. It's an Iowa law that they have. Maybe you'd think that they would be able to find a way to waive that loss. I don't know. He said it was required. I don't know. I need to talk to lawyers from Iowa or people who know Iowa law, or maybe Nate the lawyer or Keita or somebody can look up this case and look up the appropriate laws. But it sucks. But anyway, people here, though, are trying to compare this to Kyle Rittenhouse. For example, right here, Kyle Rittenhouse took himself and his loaded gun to a protest and shot 3 people in cold blood, cried self-defense, and was celebrated as a hero. Piper Lewis stabbed her rapist to death in self-defense and is sentenced and ordered to pay $150,000. Okay, first of all, let's listen to this. First of all, Kyle Rittenhouse, there was video evidence of self-defense. The jury came back with an innocent or not guilty verdict at his trial. And so, and plus, Kyle Rittenhouse isn't a hero, okay? The only reason that people celebrated Kyle winning that case is because it was so obvious that he was being railroaded in a case where there were some social factors that maybe people thought, that makes this case look bad. But when you look at the facts of the case, his case was absolutely self-defense. Piper Lewis, who I believe had terrible attorneys, pleaded guilty to a lesser charge and was sentenced according to Iowa law, not to Wisconsin law, not to New York law, not Texas law, not to Idaho law, not California law, but Iowa law, which requires the $150,000 restitution. Now, again, her GoFundMe is in my description of this video, of this stream. So if you want to contribute to it, now she's gone well over that amount, but I don't care. I still may donate to her myself. But people comparing this to Kyle Rittenhouse. Another one. Kyle Rittenhouse killed 2 men, wounded a third, and was acquitted. Yes, ding, there's the key word. What's the key word? What's the key word in that sentence? He was acquitted. So what else do you want about Kyle Rittenhouse, and how does this compare to the 2 cases? They don't compare at all because they're in different states, different locations, different judges, different juries. No jury in one case because she pleaded guilty. No comparison. Okay? And then Piper Lewis, as is an Iowa teenager who killed her accused rapist, she was sentenced to 5 years of closely supervised probation and ordered to pay $150,000. Why? Because she pled guilty to a lesser charge than first-degree murder. If she had good lawyers, if this case had been publicized nationally, do you think maybe we could have found her some really good lawyers who could have convinced the jury that she was in a desperate situation and had felt like she had no choice and whatnot? Maybe. It's tough because there are no witnesses, no video. In the Kyle Rittenhouse case, there's video evidence, there's witnesses, and even the prosecution witnesses helped Kyle Rittenhouse. The cases do not compare. And one of the things that drives me nuts about every time I see Kyle Rittenhouse trending, it's usually because there's some case in some other state or some other place that is completely different, that has nothing to do with Kyle Rittenhouse, that people try to go, well, Kyle Rittenhouse killed 2 people and he injured another and he got off scot-free, and this guy who murdered his children and, dropped them in the river, but it was an accident, didn't get off. Well, they're not the same. No 2 cases are the same. If the cases are in different states, they're not the same. If they're not the same circumstances, they're not the same. There's nothing to compare. But, man, the Kyle Rittenhouse boogeyman is so tempting. Anyway, again, like this, how does Kyle Rittenhouse get off scot-free while Piper Lewis has to spend 5 years of her youth in a correctional facility? Well, this person can't even get this part right because she's not spending 5 years of her life in a correctional facility. She is on probation. The judge let her out on probation for 5 years. Now, if she gets in trouble in those 5 years, then she ends up going to jail. The 20 that normally the sentence for pleading guilty to this would give you in the state of Iowa. So anyway, over and over and over. I mean, it's just nonstop. Someone needs to explain to me why Piper Lewis, a 15-year-old who fatally stabbed a repeated rapist, was originally arrested and murder charge was sought? Well, because they determined by what her description of events that she went and killed the guy in his sleep rather than fleeing. Now, could she have not have fled because maybe she was locked out? I don't know. We don't know the details of the case. I wish I knew more details of the case, but that's why. And then the DA pled her down to $200,000 of penalties, $150,000, to the state and community service. But Kyle Rittenhouse is innocent. Well, Kyle Rittenhouse is innocent because a jury found him not guilty. Okay, there's the difference. That's a dumb question. Again, that's the same one. We already did that one. Anyway, you get the point. Stop comparing cases, one case to another. Even during the Rittenhouse trial and the Arbery trial, people were trying to compare the case. Well, Kyle Rittenhouse got off because he's a white man, and we don't know of the Arbery guys. Well, guess what? The guys who killed Ahmaud Arbery are in jail, life sentences. Good for them. Good. Now, usually, I cannot stand Ben Crump. But Ben Crump did a solid here for a change. But, because I think in this circumstances, it makes sense. 17-year-old Piper Lewis was recently ordered to pay $150,000 to the family of her accused trafficker and rapist she fatally stabbed. Now a GoFundMe started by Lewis's former math teacher has raised over $235,000 to help the Iowa teen pay off the restitution. Awesome. Good. And I don't care what she does with the extra money. In fact, if you look at the GoFundMe right now, which will be linked in the description down below, help Piper Lewis survivor of sex trafficking. She had a $200,000 goal. It's up to $383,484. So they're far beyond their goal. And I hope this girl stays out of trouble for 5 years and never has to see another second in any kind of facility. I hope this money helps her reach some other goals. Good for Piper Lewis. Stop comparing the case or any other case to Kyle Rittenhouse. If she gets the money, well, I doubt. Look, this is enough. It's high profile enough now that if she doesn't get the money, someone else is going to jail. But this is her former math teacher. In fact, she says, here's what her math teacher wrote. Today, my former student Piper Lewis bravely took the microphone during her sentencing hearing and told the courtroom that her voice mattered. I was incredibly proud of her. She was powerful. She brought me to tears. The judge then studied all the evidence in Piper Lewis' case carefully and decided that she did not deserve to spend time in an adult prison. That is a good thing. This judge, look, she pled guilty to manslaughter. The judge could have put her in jail, but the judge didn't. Instead, he gave her 5 years probation. He decided that 834 days that she spent in juvenile detention awaiting her sentencing was enough punishment for the then 15-year-old girl who had been kicked out of her home and found herself sleeping in the stairwell of one of the most dangerous apartment complexes in Des Moines. A girl that was ultimately preyed upon by men twice her age, traded her body for drugs. These men physically assaulted, raped, and sex trafficked her. Piper on multiple occasions. On June 1st, 2020, Piper snapped and killed one of the men who exploited and raped her, stabbing him to death. Today, the judge recognized that Piper was a victim and a child. He, like almost everyone who knows the details of Piper's case, empathized with the girl with no violent history before or after the incident who saw the killing of a man as the only way out of a truly horrific situation. He granted her probation and a deferred judgment, meaning if she meets the conditions of her parole, she will have a felony removed from her record. That's good too. This is a judge who's trying to do the right thing here. This is a compassionate outcome. Yet, Piper only found herself in this situation because she was initially charged as an adult with first-degree murder. DMPD, Des Moines Police Department, and the Polk County Prosecutor's Office saw Piper immediately as a grown, violent adult murderer, and they charged her as such. Only because a team of amazing people came to Piper's side was her story truly heard and understood. However, the risk of life in prison looming, Piper pled guilty to charges of manslaughter and willful injury. This was to avoid a risky trial where her team feared an Iowa jury might implicitly struggle to see a young black girl as the victim of a sex trafficking that she was. I might have taken your chance because you still might get a judge who has some empathy in sentencing. Today, it appears that the decision to put Piper's fate in the hands of a judge as opposed to a jury was a good one. Piper will avoid prison, and she will have access to some of the services she needs to continue healing. However, in Iowa, there is a law that states anyone who is convicted of killing a person, regardless of circumstances, must pay that individual's family $150,000. This law is intended to provide justice to families who lost their loved ones. However, in this case of Piper, it will require her to pay $150,000 to the family of a man who purchased Piper's 15-year-old body from sex traffickers, gave her drugs and alcohol, and then raped her repeatedly. Piper does not owe that man's family justice. Piper does not deserve to be financially burdened for the rest of her life because the state of Iowa wrote a law that fails to give judges any discretion on how it is applied. This law does not make sense in many cases, but in this case, it's morally unjustifiable. A child who was raped under no circumstances should owe the rapist's family money. Agreed. And that's why, now you can read the rest of this, and there's an update at the bottom. As donations have increased, she's overjoyed with the prospect of removing the burden from Piper. So she increased the goal, and now it's $383,000, and probably going to keep going higher because as the case gets more known. But anyway, that's it. That's all I wanted to tell you today. I have no videos or anything. This is the story that I wanted to tell this afternoon, and I'm about to leave town. So anyway, thank you for those of you who joined me today. Hit the like button if you. By the way, before I even go, if you're watching this replay, what do you think of this case? Put your comments in the comment section. I want to hear what you think. Am I being too pro Piper? Do you think that this case has anything to do with Kyle Rittenhouse? Do you think the judge had any discretion in the Iowa law? Do you think that Iowa law should be changed? What do you think about this case? Put it in the comment section down below. I look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you so much for watching today. I got to go. My name is Dawg Knight, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is Dawg Knight, and thank you for watching today on the Dawg Knight Channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cash App, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm Dawg Knight, and I'm out of here.